This is part 4 to my series, The Fuck Happened to My Cost of Living in Australia that the government doesn't want you to know. So in the next few seconds, I'm going to stitch a video. It's going to show you a snippet of a video of a lovely gentleman, an average battler like us, the average citizens of Australia, who's getting pumped in the back, if you know what I mean, by major corporations owned by foreign investors that are by all means pushing their wicked profit maximization agendas despite affordability for the average Aussies like us. And sadly, there's nothing we can do about it. The government, past, present, and future, has sold our country out. Our natural resources do not belong to us anymore. But what we can do is jump into this rabbit hole, see how deep this goes, and at least we know how we're getting screwed. Let's watch this video.
I just got really pissed off. I got an email from Energy Australia. So my power bill went up to $1,597, I think it was, for the quarter. Australia used to be the lucky country, used to be the place that you would go. The cost of living has just absolutely spiraled out of control.
The average Australians who are watching this, unless you're a billionaire, would agree with the gentleman over here. Our cost of living is spiraling out of control. And remember what I said in my past videos in this series, the Fuck series, the 5 energy companies that are controlling the resources in Australia, 3 of them are owned by overseas. Let's look at Energy Australia, because that's what old mate was talking about, Energy Australia. Let's jump into this rabbit hole. Let's get the answers that we want. How are they screwing us? Let's take a look deeply. Based on my diagram here, which I quickly whipped up, you will see EA. I don't want to mention the name in case they shadow ban me because I'm talking bad crap about them. Anyway, EA over here, right, is masked as an Australian company. But who owns EA? CLP Group. CLP Group is based in Hong Kong. And who owns a major portion of CLP Group? Michael Kadori. And who is this old mate over here? To borrow a character reference from the Matrix, he is the architect. Old mate over here, Michael David Kadori, worth $6.5 billion, is a Hong Kong billionaire. Don't be fooled by his meager 18% ownership of CLP Group, because that's pretty big for one person. He's currently sitting as chairman to the CLP holding with big voting rights. And the company website, which you can find, Zhongdan for CLP Group, says, which quotes him, without shareholders, there will be no company. Right, Australian government? Wink, wink. Looking at their current top 10 shareholders for the CLP Group, Zhongdan, I'm wondering right now, is there any politicians sitting as private executive shareholders of any of these companies? Now, just a fun fact before I move on, old mate over here is a vintage antique car collector. One of these cars will be worth in the range of millions to tens of millions of dollars. So when he hypothetically finds a new car that he wants to collect and goes, I don't want to dip into my billions of dollars, maybe I should just call up my old mate, Australian branded Energy Australia. Hike it up by a couple of dollars from millions of Australians. Bing, bing. My bank account increased by a couple of $1 million, and I'll just buy this car. And the rabbit hole gets deeper here. You notice this name over here? A lot of Asian or Chinese or people who are exposed to the Asian media would know Lee Ga-sing. That's Lee Ga-sing. He is the richest mofo in Hong Kong. He literally owns a majority of Hong Kong's essential services and utilities. For example, HKT Limited. That is like the Telstra of Australia. The company Free Hong Kong, which is part of CK Hutchison Holdings, is another telecommunication company like Optus. And under that is Hutchison Ports, which is basically the world's largest ports operator. Import, export, the freight's going in and out. He gets a clip every time you go through these ports. Then under Chung Kong Infrastructure Holdings, there's HK Electric and Power Asset Holdings, which is basically the entire electricity unit of Hong Kong. And there's other companies that I didn't add to this diagram because I quickly whipped it up. There's a gas company, another freight terminal that he owns, and also many other real estate and commercial development companies that he owns in Hong Kong. And fun fact, the Hong Kong citizens, the honkies I call them, all hate him. He is notorious for profit maximization strategies, and every time he goes out, he has to go in a custom car, this custom BM, which is worth tens of millions of dollars because this is not an average BM. It's got a bulletproof glass. It's got its own oxygen tank, And in an event of like a poisonous gas attack, I mean, like, who would think about that? But he's thought about it. In the trunk, there's a very expensive air cleansing unit that will pull all the gas, the poisonous gas out, or any antivirus that's attacked upon him. And there is enough oxygen for him to survive for the next 48 hours for reinforcement to come. The military will come to rescue him. Now, if you watched thus far, you're probably wondering, hey Q, why are you spending time fleshing out who Michael Todori and Lee Ga-sing is? Like, what does that mean to us? Well, as you can see from these multi-billionaires, these two puppet masters of CLP Group, do they really care about the Australian cost of living through the usage of EA? Look at how they live their lives, buying vintage cars, having cars that are bulletproof, poison-proof. The Australian government has sold our essential resources, energy, to these corporate Thanos, Lee Ga-sing and Michael Todori, billionaires. To borrow the Thanos analogy in Avengers, you know how Thanos has that gauntlet and there's like multiple gemstones that he collects? Well, EA is just one of them, right? And for Lee Ga-sing, he also has stakes 49% of City Power, which basically controls the electricity grid of Victoria. He also has part of his Thanos gauntlet power, one of the gems of 33% of APRA Group, which controls South Australia's utilities and energy. Just with a click of a finger, Lee Ga-sing and Michael Todori, which controls a majority of CLP Group with the other foreign investor mates, just like that, your electricity prices will just jack up like the old gentleman was complaining in that previous video. If you think I'm too conspiracy theorist like Q, you're trying to lay dirt on these billionaires that's helping Australia with their investment, bringing more jobs to Australia. Oh yeah, right? Well, what happened to this? The introduction of sun tax. Sun tax is going to be introduced to all energy in Australia. Like, this would totally blow your mind on the power that these corporate Thanos have. Look at this, right? High cost of living in terms of energy prices, right? People like me install solar. Lots of people I know install solar, right? And then we feed it back to the grid so that our energy prices, stay low, and we also get a kickback. But does this renewable way of saving costs through green energy to reduce our electricity prices sit well with corporate Thanos? No. Oh no, old mate won't like this because they want to jack up the prices, get you to pay more for the electricity. But if you're installing solar panels and not fitting into what we want to charge you for electricity because you're using the bloody sun, well, let's lobby the government as this diagram over here, which I've drawn to show you the effect of the power of this corporate Thanos, right? Through the lobbying effects to the Australian Energy Market Commission, just like how Uncle Sam, the US, claims the Chinese are at overcapacity with their EVs and putting like 100% tariff on the EVs, well, the bloody Australian government through the AEMC is putting a tariff on the electricity that we feed back through our excess energy from our solar panels. By us practicing in renewable energy, by feeding energy back to them so that we can get some sort of, small kickback to reduce our energy prices, we're going to get tariff on the energy fed back to their grid. That is how this legislation was passed. Like, we didn't vote for this. It just got passed. There's now a new sun tax. We're getting taxed for using the freaking sun. I guess who does that benefit? EA, who's controlled by CLP. And on top of that, they don't even pay tax. There's about a $30 billion in revenue in 5 years leading to 2009. That tax has not been paid by this company. You might be thinking, well, big deal, who cares? They don't pay tax, they're corporations. But this is the impact of corporate tax avoidance on the cost of living and inflation for us average Australians. If these big corporations using tax havens like KPMG, Ernst & Young and PricewaterhouseCoopers, all those consulting firms, and don't get me started on those consulting firms with the government, but I'll do that on another video. But these consulting firms are helping EA or many corporate companies like these to avoid tax. $1 billion of tax. And because the government gets less tax in their revenue, well, they can't go after the corporate Thanos, they go after us. They increase the average Australian's tax. And then that adds to the burden of high cost of living, inflationary pressures, reduction in public services, because these bloody major corporations who are screwing us over are not paying tax. Sorry for the long video, but this the fuck is happening to our cost of living. It's not us causing the high cost of living through inflation, the pressures. It's these corporate Thanos. They are the ones that's doing the clicks, and we suffer. Jump in the comments, let me know what you think.